My mom, her grandfather, George Washington Hopkins, was the basket maker and barrel maker here for the...
Right.
And he came, I guess, right after 1900 and brought his boys and his 2 daughters and then an adopted son. And they were the main workers here, the main permanent workers. And Grandpa George had a big house, and seeing the size of the houses, you know, they're not big. And I asked my mom why he had a big house. She said because he had all those boys. That was a big thing back then, to bring the male boys in and work the farm. And they had a big house. They must have had it. When my grandma moved back after, they left after the 3 girls were born, and they were pregnant with their 4th child, my Uncle Milton. They moved to Lumberton. He went to work on a farm and had, you know, farmers give the people homes. And then the baby died of the flu, Spanish flu. Then he died a couple months later, my grandfather.
Of the Spanish flu?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Grandma moved back with her 3 daughters to her parents' home here in Whitesbog.
Right.
And then my mom grew up here and worked here. And that was just part of their lives.
So if I could just go back really quick, the earliest your family came to Whitesbog was your grandfather, George Washington Hopkins.
He was my great-grandfather.
And then he had 2 sons?
No, I had 6 and an adopted one.
Oh, wow.
And 2 daughters, Carrie and Elizabeth. My grandma was Carrie.
Your grandma was Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And Carrie married?
Jacob Miller.
Jacob Miller.
These Millers from, local from Pemberton. They were farmers. They still have farms.
So Carrie and Jacob Miller married and had your mother.
They had 3 daughters, Sarah, Dorothy, and Louise. You know, where 12 is, immediately after her birth, my grandfather, Jacob Miller, ran outside, and it was Isaac Haynes. And he took her and ran outside to show Isaac, his baby girl, right down the road.
I love that.
And Isaac is the one who showed her how to plant cranberries.
Right.
Yeah, so they all worked when they were kids. And she worked right up until she married my dad when she was 24.
Oh, wow. And so your mother was born in which year again?
13.
And so your family, did they primarily work in the bogs picking berries, or did they have other jobs? I think you mentioned before about some barrel manufacturing.
George, my great-grandfather, was the basket and barrel maker here.
Right.
His family and step-family were the basket and barrel makers of New Egypt. There was a big thing, the basket and barrel makers.
Right.
And they would even sign their names. It was a very classic thing. I've done a lot of genealogy. And Martha Ann Rafe, who was my grandmother, George's wife. Right. It's spelled Ralph, but pronounced Rafe. It's the Old English thing. It's very important to her to pronounce it Rafe. Her family goes back to Edward III in England in the 1300s. So this is historic blood. It's very thin, but it came down to Martha Ann, my great-grandmother. And George Washington Hopkins, I've been told this, but I haven't done the research on it, but there's more than several in the Hopkins family that they were from the Mayflower. And Stephen Hopkins and his servant was Edward Doty. And so my uncle Doty, the name carried down Doty and the Hopkins. So to me it was interesting that these people from these different parts of very ancient history come down, and these people were here at Whitesbog. We moved to Browns Mills in 1950 after Mom had moved to Sykesville when she got married. And we moved back here to Browns Mills. And Mom always said that the pine air made you so healthy.
Yeah,
because we were skinny little kids, you know, which was normal. But to my mom, it's like...
right. Where'd you guys live in Browns Mills?
On Lakehurst Road, like everybody else.
Oh, nice, nice. Let me ask one other thing. So we talked before about blueberry picking. And we talked about the different types of blueberries and all that kind of stuff. If you don't mind just telling us about your experiences picking blueberries, which ones were good, which ones weren't good, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, being a kid, I was been in the blueberry field my whole life.
Right.
Till I was 19. That was the only way to make money around here for young people.
Right.
You know, there's not much industry, especially back during the 50s and in the blueberry field, the ones that I really liked picking, and most people did, were the Dixies. They were great big little fat blueberries, and they just filled up your basket so fast. You know, picking the berries, rolling them.
Right.
And the ones we didn't like were the Rancocas, because they were so tiny. It took forever, twice as long, three times as long to fill up a pint of berries.
Right.
With the Rancocas. And I remember being in the blueberry field, and of course we picked out there without inspection papers because you were underage.
Right.
And when the inspector would come, you'd hear through the fields, "Get under the bush, the inspectors are here."
That's funny.
So we'd take our baskets off and...
Whereabouts would you pick?
Oh, I picked Joe Rogers. He was this farmer from Sykesville. He had a farm, and then he had blueberry farms out here off Lakehurst Road. And Buckaloo's on Ridge Road, and then Harker on Junction Road.
Right.
That's mostly where I picked.
Who else would pick with you? A lot of migrant workers, or?
No, well, with Joe Rogers, yes. Well, they would bring a bus from Trenton and Philly. They'd have, I don't know whether they're street people or what, but they'd bring them.
And would they stay for the day and then
they'd stay for the day and get paid and go back, and then when they left, you'd see them at the White Dot on 206. And there was a liquor store there, so I don't know whether they were in there buying their liquor for the day or getting ice cream.
How much would picking blueberries get you in a day?
You got paid for a pint. And I know that if you didn't stay the whole season, you had money deducted from you wore the tickets around your neck on a chain, and they would punch them in when you took your trays up. There were 12 or 15 pint trays. They were 5 cents a pint in the beginning, and then 4 cents if you didn't stay.
Wow.
Wasn't much.
And they had a necklace of...
Yeah, you'd have your chain or a thong, and you'd have all your tickets on it. Because that was your worth. And then they had the little star puncher, and they'd take your ticket, and when you went out, and they'd punch how many pints you turned in.
Yeah. What is your personal memory, your favorite one?
Just coming up here and walking around, and then bringing, like my sister Pat from Massachusetts has 3 daughters, and when they'd come down, we'd go and walk. Right. And look at the old homes and walk down this way and go to Florence and look for things, just being here.
What is your favorite building to kind of visit or explore here at Whitesbog?
Number 12, because that's where my mom was born. Yeah. And the old store, because my cousins live there. And the one next to it where Harry and Helen and Bricky lived. Right. They raised their son, Roger. Yeah, just walking, just coming up to the store and then just walking past the houses and walking down not too far and coming back up and seeing the little village and realizing the people that lived there and how hard life was. It had to have been hard. And I can't imagine living in those homes without insulation and as cold as it was, and how they cooked, how did they manage. It's just overwhelming when you start to think about it. Yeah. But it was, for that day, this was a good place to live.